All right. Hello, people that are gone. I apologize for my voice. It's a little rough. I'm a little tired. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir there, literally. See what I did there? Thought that was pretty good. Yesterday we had some technical difficulties recording. I didn't realize that when I would pause it and tell you to watch a video clip that it wouldn't pick back up the recording, so we were a little short. So this is going to be the main part that we missed. And I want to make sure you get this because this is where people sometimes start to stumble. This and then what we covered today. The first is this. As we're talking about conditioning people and we're talking about this whole idea of dog training or whatever we want to say, we have to understand that the goal is to get people to do the things that we want. The goal is to get the dog to do whatever it is that we want them to do. And so we have to understand that the importance is using correct reinforcers. So reinforcers are anything that strengthens behavior. This is food, this is money, this is sex, this is love, this is affection. And oftentimes, the problem we run into is that we use reinforcers that don't directly lead to the benefit we're trying to get or the behavior that we're trying to get. And so a lot of times what we see is that what we're trying to accomplish we actually work against. And this is why I like to talk about diets, because the mistake people make, myself included, is that the focus of a diet is, hey, I want to be skinny, instead of, hey, I want to be healthy. And so in order to get skinny, we cut the things that we want, which is food. The reason we're overweight, if we're heavy in the first place, is because what we choose to eat and what we prefer to eat. And so that becomes a problem because our reinforcer, our reward, is going to naturally subvert the desired behavior we have and the desired behavior we want. Positive, when we talk about reinforcing, is not good. Positive doesn't mean, oh, this is a good thing. This is something that builds on it. All we mean is that positive is going to be adding something. We are going to add a reinforcer. When I give you money, think about when I trained Charlie for potty training. It was, I'm going to give you M&Ms every time that you pee in the potty. So that's a positive reinforcer. I add a stimulus. Obviously, the negative is going to be when we take a stimulus away. Now, this is where things get confusing. And I don't want to go into it too much today in this note session, but to go over a negative reinforcer, the critical thing to keep in mind is this. You are taking away something that would increase a behavior. Now, what we mean by that is we're taking away something that would increase the behavior. So we have to be careful because a lot of times what people would categorize negative stimulus or negative reinforcers as is actually going to be a positive punishment. So it becomes confusing because the language that we tend to use, even the way that we describe it and what we think is the actual reinforcer, might dictate whether we view it as a negative reinforcer or a positive punishment. Now, all reinforcers are not the same. Some of them are things that we don't have to be taught to value. We don't have to be taught that food is good, some food at least. Now, if I'm sitting here saying, hey, if you do well on the test, you get as much broccoli as you want, that's not much of a reinforcer because that's not naturally something that most of us appreciate. If I say, hey, you do well on the test, you get pizza, you get donuts, you get sugary something, those are things that we naturally want. Food, drink, sex is a primary reinforcer. Those are things we naturally try and do. I would argue this, though. The most powerful and most important reinforcer is the thing that we're always all searching for, which is actual love. Children don't have to be taught that love is a reinforcer. Children don't have to be taught that love is something that you're seeking. If you think about your behavior, so much of it is truly looking for love. I honestly feel terrible for rich, famous celebrities because how do you know if anyone really loves you? How do you know if you are Ryan Gosling? If the women that are after you are in love with you, your looks, your money, your fame, the prestige of dating you, and more importantly, what happens when those go away? So you think about the way that people behave. Why do men want to have careers that make a lot of money? so they can get a wife, so they can get a haka. You get a nice house, you get a nice car, and that will attract the right type of woman, depending on what you're looking for. Here's the problem with that then. What happens if you lose your job? Imagine how awful it would be if you're very successful, very rich, and then all of a sudden something calamitous happens, and you lose your job, you lose your wealth, and this beautiful wife that you had leaves you too, because the only reason she was there was for those things. So what an emotionally devastating situation that you're in. If it's not a primary reinforcer, it's a conditioned reinforcer. And what we mean by that is that you are taught to want it. Children don't want money. They don't care about money. In fact, none of you want money. That's easy to prove. None of you ever want money. And we can do a simple thought experiment to prove this. If I told you I would give you $1 million, but you could never ever spend it or invest it or do anything with it, you could leave it in your house and have $1 million to look at, is that something you would really want? No, in fact, it would cause anxiety, because you're sitting here thinking, why can't I use this to get whatever it is you're looking for? Most of our conditioned reinforcers are things we learn to reinforce and associate with primary reinforcers. So men want a high-paying job so that they can get their primary reinforcer. Love, sex, whatever it is. Women aren't looking for money. Women have been conditioned to value their physical appearance, because their physical appearance will get them love, sex, whatever it is. For women, sex is not the hard part. That is not the hard reinforcer. For women, the actual love is. So now, they're not necessarily imagine, but think about the things you're using in reinforcers for yourself, women. Weight loss, makeup, the things you do to make yourself look pretty. Now, if that is used to gain a primary reinforcer, love, what happens when you lose your looks? What happens when you gain some weight? What happens when you start to see crow's feet? The people I feel the most bad for in this whole world are Sasha and Malia Obama. Imagine being a middle school girl and your dad is the president. How do you know if any of those girls want to be your friend? You have a birthday party and a sleepover at your house. How do you know that the people that are coming really want to come because they like you versus I get to have a sleepover at the White House? You're a 14, 15-year-old insecure girl, which all 14, 15-year-old girls are. And how do you know that that boy in class really likes you? And he's not just wanting to say that he dated one of the president's daughters. How do you know that his parents aren't encouraging him to date you so that it'll further their career? And again, so what we have is an associated conditioned reinforcer that's leading to a primary reinforcer, which could be leading to lots and lots of, let's be honest, emotional turmoil. All right, we will pick up with how we apply reinforcers in today's lecture in class.